thegearnetwork.com.
The following is a presentation of the Gear Radio Network.
From the Gear Network studios in Rochester, New York, this is the ListenIn podcast with your hosts, John Cimino and Brennan Durrell. And now, here's John.
Delighted to have everybody listening to us on ListenIn here on the Gear Radio Network. Once again, Brandon and I, we're here. How you doing? Brandon's over there. Say hello, Brandon.
Hey.
Hey. All right. We are back. This is the, believe it or not, Brandon, the 11th season of this podcast, the ListenIn podcast. And what's wild to me is, you know, our origins with this podcast, where we started off and hold on. I'm flipping a number of different things here, multitasking here at the Gear Network studios. Well, we started off as a fantasy football podcast, and well, that really didn't go well. Then we just morphed into whatever the hell we want, and now we're just two old fucks that talk about our football teams and yell at the clouds.
Yeah.
But
not that old, but
what's new and exciting for you, man?
Not much, man. Just getting into the groove of this NFL season. It's been an interesting start to the season for sure.
Yeah, really wild. Week 1 began before week 1 began, when you had all the craziness
Thursday
with
Friday.
Tyreek Hill getting arrested on Sunday before the game, and then not too long after that, Dak Prescott got a contract extension. Now he's the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, and just so much happening, and it's just been wild. It's been fun, but we're here to talk about a couple of things in particular, namely our sports teams. Now, earlier this week on the Jason Winning Show, let's start with the Packers and the Eagles. This past Friday in Brazil, a week ago from press recording, because that happened first before the Monday night game, obviously. I was bitching about this a little bit on Trust the Podcast. And we were bitching about it live and in Show Enough Living Color when we were watching it at my house together. But the field conditions, this NFL expansion, like at some point, to me, I need to understand what the return on investment for that is, because they go to these markets. Okay, London, I kind of get. You know, they spent a lot of money, they spent a lot of time, they built the fanfare in London. Okay, I get that.
Yeah.
Germany likes NFL, American football. Those are kind of blueprint markets that had NFL Europe back in the, even going back even farther to the World Football League days. But then you've got Brazil, and they're that stadium, as you documented, and as others have as well, not made for 300-pound men.
No.
Slapping meat with one another in the middle of the field there. And what you end up getting is you get a number of injuries. You get some sloppy, poor play. You get, in the case of Jordan Love, 5 seconds left in the game, he's got an injury there, and not saying that the field condition was solely responsible for that, but I have to imagine that it had something to do with it. So I guess for me, I'm having a hard time trying to figure out the return on investment with all of these different expansions, if they're not even going to even do a outside, an offshore league or, an offshore division. It's impossible to have a team in Brazil play a team in New York, or play a team in Green Bay, or play a team in San Francisco all the time, with the travels, time differences, things like that. Yeah. It's wild to me that they're doing this. What are your thoughts on that?
I thought it was terrible. It was a bad look for the league. If they're going to do this, like, at worst, do it on a field that has that goofy turf, like the artificial real turf that they put out in a lot of NFL stadiums and some soccer stadiums that they put it in too. But this one, they had a natural surface. Like I said to you that night, like, it was definitely a surface meant for little soccer players who are fast and quick, and you want a fast, quick surface.
Right.
But when you got 200, plus pounds, like, the lightest guy in the field's at least 200 pounds. Like it's big men, and like you say, okay, well then put on, the 6-inch spikes, and that does great for a while, but it also tears up giant holes in the field because again, it's not deeply rooted grass. It's very, very surface level, and it's supposed to be fast and, for soccer players.
Right.
So, there was a lot of footing issues, a lot of sloppy play, a lot of issues, attributing to that footing. They showed a
Right.
video of somebody walking the end zone at the end of the night, and it just looked like the whole thing was chewed up, and there's not a lot of traffic in the end zone.
Right.
Like
Right.
you look at the middle of the field and it was nuts. So I don't know, like the fans didn't seem all that into it. Apparently they were, but just the audio mix was really bad.
I've noticed a
And
lot of
from
production issues. I mean,
Yeah,
even going to last night's game on Amazon
on Amazon,
when
yeah.
James Cook scored his first touchdown
Hmm.
and Al Michaels called it, but they didn't have the graphic. They didn't really.
Yeah,
The camera operators didn't seem like they weren't very sure.
yeah, it was a
But it
little
seems like
sloppy.
it seems like almost. And I don't know if one hand washes the other here, or if this is just sports conspiracy theory I'm about to spit out here. But they spend all this money to expand the brand, expand the sport, and then
Mhm.
they go into these markets. There's this sloppy play here, and you've got the referees that
Yeah,
make it the ref show.
yeah, yeah.
Obviously, the referee,
Those first
it's
two
under the
games were
microphone.
brutal. It's like
Brutal.
it slowed down a little bit after that, and I think they probably got the word that like everyone is like losing their mind and the flow of the game was terrible. But at the same time, it was hard to watch my team, which has, playoff and possible Super Bowl implications and aspirations for this team, have to go open in Brazil, a place where nobody's ever played. It's a place where everything is shit right now. They had a massive earthquake not too long before the games. There was water supply issues. There is like disease going around, and like these teams had to come in. They had to go into lockdown for like, most of the week, and they had like gated off practice facilities, and like it just is not a normal start to a season for a team.
Right, right.
So, even if you're a good team and you're ready to go, you can only prep so much, and it becomes a coin flip, like who's going to win that game. And it just kind of sucks. Like, and if I'm the Eagles, like I'm happy that I won the game, but at the same time, I'm also like I lost a home game for this.
Right.
Um,
And I think that's what bugs me the most, I think, about this at all, is because they at some point, for these games, some team is sacrificing a home game for this
yeah,
experiment. And in this case, it happened to be Philadelphia, and Philadelphia had a best
right.
case. It came out victorious there. Mercifully, no injuries. Saquon Barkley had himself a hell of a game. The Mara family is probably kicking themselves in their respective taints for not paying the man
Uh,
and now losing him to a division rival. But that's a different story
yeah.
for a little bit later on. But you're right. It takes away a home game from the fans. They have to adjust to different circumstances, different conditions. The water out there not the best. They couldn't practice with under normal
Yeah, you didn't get to
circumstances.
practice on that field.
Right.
They only got to go on that field right before game time, like earlier in the day. And, they noticed it was slick, but at the same time, like they didn't get to spend time practicing on there. Like it just was a shit operation, just to say the least.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
it definitely didn't do the job.
Right. And I'm sure they'll probably go
And
back anyways,
yeah,
because that's what they
they
do.
definitely will,
They'll
because
never give up.
if you saw like they had the whole NFL fan experience thing,
Hmm.
like even up to 2 days after they left, um like the fan experience thing was packed. And when they were playing the games on Sunday, in the plaza where, they had big screens up and it was like a concert almost set up. They had games on that thing, and there was a lot of people there. it's something to do, but like, I don't know, like it gets to a point where like how much money is enough money? You know what I
Right.
mean? Like
Right.
it
Exactly.
seems like, it's the richest league in all of sports. Like every freaking, even the worst franchises are valued over $1 billion.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, there's no league like that. Even the like top soccer like clubs and leagues are not in the same
Echelon. Yeah.
stratosphere
Mm-hmm.
as, the NFL is, and the NFL is just like, well, we get all this money from America. Let's go get money from the rest of the world too, so we can like quadruple our profits. Like, and again, it comes down to the players, and it's not player safety. Like, Green Bay has not had very much luck going overseas. Like
Right.
a couple years ago when they went to England and they played against the New York Giants, a team that they were superior to and should have beat. And they didn't, but also they walked away with another injury. Like
Right.
Aaron Rodgers ended up injuring his hand
Yeah.
and
You
his
know what?
shoulder from
Last year,
that follow
Buffalo,
through.
same
Yeah.
thing.
Josh
In
Allen.
London, Josh Allen, but Milano
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
So
So like it's it's not it's not ideal. And I kind of hope that Green Bay doesn't have to do it for at least another 5 to 6 years,
I doubt
before they have
I
to do
doubt
that.
that's going to happen, especially with Jordan Love
Yeah,
getting, being a name QB
yeah,
now, especially it being in the top 10 of this QB
I know
salary
it's
ranges.
hard.
They're shipping them off somewhere, but hopefully it's, somewhere like London or Germany. I wish they would
I
just
don't like any of them, so
I would why wouldn't they try and expand north of the border? Canada seems to make the most sense. They have CFL fields, which are football ready. They could use that.
they don't really need to expand to Canada because Buffalo's close enough where a lot of fans from Toronto come from anyways. Like, I think they've already done that with the Bills playing like the split schedule in Buffalo and Toronto that time period. It did okay, but like football's popular in Canada too. Like not as popular as hockey is, obviously, but they still have a market share there. They've always had a market share there, especially with having, a professional football league in Canada.
Sure. Yeah.
So I don't think that that's a one that like kind of quantifies for a
All right.
expansion.
That's very
But
fair.
you go with the European places, they don't have football. They don't even have like like a G League for football. Like, Canada has a CFL. Like there's no international football leagues out
Right.
there. So they're
Yeah.
trying to grow that. And then maybe like other countries are going to be encouraged to be like, oh, well, maybe we could be football players. Um, and they're just not gonna do
They're
it.
not
It's
it doesn't carry the same weight, I think, like the NBA. When the NBA did their
yeah.
global expansion, like the NBA is significantly less violent than the
Well,
NFL.
I
And
think that Europeans are not built for the NFL either.
right.
Like
Yeah, for
they're
sure.
they're built more for soccer players.
Yep.
Like they're thin, they're agile, they're accurate. Like the same thing, that's why you say, basketball works because there's a lot of basketball leagues in Europe. There's a
Mhm.
lot of European players who have come to the NBA. Like they're built for that. You're not going to get a lot of European players coming from Europe to play in the United States and play in the NFL.
Mhm.
They're just not built that way. Um, it's probably all in the food and
It could be. It
supplements
could
that
be.
we have here that we're,
Could could be.
growing these mutant children that play in the NFL.
Big meaty men slapping meat.
Yeah.
That's what we like to say. But speaking of the Packers and the Eagles, let's kind of run down through the game really quickly. The Eagles over the Packers 34-29. We already know this. Jordan
Oof.
Love 17 of 34, 260 yards, 2 tutties to 1 interception, which I don't believe was his fault. I can't remember. I was under a certain level of
It was a
intoxication.
tip ball. It was,
But
yeah, it
despite
hit.
that, had a QB had a rating of 83, a completion percentage rating of 83%. He was
Hmm.
pretty efficient. To Jalen Hurts, 20 of 34, 278, 2 tutties, 2 interceptions. The story I think for the Eagles though, especially their offense, was Saquon Barkley. 24 carries, 109 yards, 2 touchdowns. The longest of that, his runs being 34 yards. He was pretty good. Josh Jacobs had a pretty good game as well. 16 carries, 84 yards, 32. Brandon, what did you like out of the offense for Green Bay?
I liked how the line protected. It was a different line. We slid some guys around to different positions. Like Zach Tom and Elton Jenkins had I think Zach Tom was the top rated lineman in PFT this past week. With just his overall performance. He didn't let anything. He didn't get sniff from his direction. And the same thing with Jenkins. Jenkins had no pressures allowed. Run block was strong. The rookie slotted in and slotted out. He's a big dude. He's bigger than I thought he was, seeing him in person, or at least on TV, and as opposed to like seeing him in college tape and quick highlights and stuff like that. He looked a lot bigger. So when he starts to sharpen his skills, he's going to be a bonus there. I didn't like. I think that, and it is also very field attributed. Like run blocking requires you to like push forward, and if you can't get your footing, you're not going to get a lot of.
It's not going to be very effective.
Yeah, and they started off slow with the run. The run got better as it went on because they changed their spikes, and the line was able to get a little more traction on that. But there was a lot of like timing routes that were disrupted because guys were slipping. The interception that happened, Jordan Love was trying to throw to Luke Musgrave. Musgrave ended up slipping at the top of his break. And then when he broke, he was supposed to break in and he broke more flat, which allowed the other guy to cut underneath and make the interception. That doesn't happen on a normal field. So it's hard to judge what was really good and what was really bad. I did like how well the defense contained Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is a problem running the ball, and he had 33 yards.
Yeah, and I was going to get right to the defense right after this. I wanted to point out from a visual perspective, looking at down the stat line, seemed like it was pretty even between Philadelphia and Green Bay when you consider.
We won the turnover battle by 2, but we didn't score any points off of it. We got 2 field goals.
Right. I think that was probably what kind of stunted Green Bay's winning there. It was the difference because when you look at the Green Bay receiving, Jordan Love completed passes to 6 different targets. 6 different targets. He targeted 8 total. Musgrave and Dontavian Wicks. If I said his first name right, I'm not sure. I'm terrible at pronunciation, but so he was distributing the ball out, giving it out. Plus the run game too. You had runs from Josh Jacobs, Emmanuel Wilson, Jaden Reed. But it was pretty much kind of offensively. Philadelphia had a very similar structure, a very similar game plan.
Yeah.
But then going over to the defense, to your point, the majority of the defense, if you look down the stat line, you would think it looks pretty even. But again, when you look at the tackles for loss, right? Green Bay's defense had 7 tackles for loss to Philadelphia's 4. So they were putting pressure. They were putting pressure on Jalen Hurts. To your point, how Jalen Hurts plays his game defensively, Green Bay, score aside, looked like they were ready for it.
Yeah, and again, this is a brand new defense, brand new defensive coordinator. They went from a 3-4 scheme to a 4-3 scheme. So there is going to be some adjustment. There's a lot of man coverage, and when you're playing on a shitty field, man coverage is tough because you got to break with a receiver, and you break on a dime. The long touchdown that Philly got with Brown, he got it because Alexander slipped, and then Alexander spent like the first 6-7 steps trying to regain his footing, chasing him down. You almost see him tiptoeing just to get his traction.
Right.
And by then it was just way too late. So jury's still out. I did like a lot of what I saw, and I think that on an even playing field, I think they would have performed a better clip. And they're going to need him this week because Indianapolis is coming to town. Indianapolis is a good team. They went toe to toe last week with Houston. That's a big rivalry that's, brewing over there with the two young quarterbacks and the
Yep.
two young teams. Um, so, they're coming into town, and it looks like Jordan Love will be out this week. He hasn't been officially ruled out, but I think that's more psychological than anything.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to get Malik Willis, so we're going to have to rely on the run game, and the defense is going to have to be stout. And if
Right.
they can pull one out, and not go drop to 0-2. You look at the following week, you got Tennessee. Do you need to start Jordan Love?
Right.
Because Tennessee's got a brutal schedule to start.
Yeah. They're playing. They're playing the Jets. They're playing the Jets this week. Who, honestly, we can transition into that because I've mentioned earlier on the JC Money Show, earlier this week on the JC Money Show, and for you, Brandon, you're not on the Facebook anymore. But typically every week when the Jets play, depending on whether or not they win or lose, will depend on the status that I post immediately right after the game is over. So typically, what I've done of late, the past season and a half, I think, is when the Jets lose, I'll just simply write "I hate football" and then press post. And just kind of see the haha reacts come through and all that type of shit from all the anti-Jets fans. And then when they win, I write "I love football" and look for the same thing. And usually when I write "I hate football" and "I love football," it's Bills fans that comment on all of them.
Yeah, of course.
I hate football. And it's
where you live.
whatever. Oh yeah, the Jets stink. And then, when I love football, it's, oh, well, they played this guy. You know what I mean? So the Jets are playing the Jets. I hated football last week because the Jets lost to the 49ers, though I will say that in spite of some of the,
your defense,
the lack of production, the defense that let down.
Huge letdown.
The offensive line.
You guys went with a backup running back for San Francisco. You didn't even have CMC, and he absolutely gutted you guys.
Oh yeah, he torched them for 147 yards on 28 carries with one tutty there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was Brock Lesnar. Brock Purdy did not, he played Brock Purdy ball. Brock
Purdy
he did what he needed to do.
That is a guy who is going to always be in a situation where if he has a clean pocket, he is going to hit receivers.
Yep.
He's nothing special. Everyone hypes him up to be the special guy, but I don't see it. Like when he plays against defenses that can get pressure on him, he wilts.
I think if you take Brock Purdy and you put him on 31 other teams, I don't think he's San Francisco Brock Purdy. When we hear people say so and so is a Patriots,
he's not gonna do much.
When we hear people say so and so is a system quarterback, so and so, that's their big thing, right? Remember, it was Tom Brady for years, right? Tom Brady is a system quarterback, and then he moves over to Tampa Bay, and you realize
this is a system that took Jimmy Garoppolo to a Super Bowl. That's really all you need to know.
Exactly.
About the Shanahan system.
Exactly. So
it doesn't matter. You just plug and play, and
he just needs to turn over
the ball.
He just needs to show up as what he does.
Over.
But what I was
so many weapons.
It was not. It wasn't one of those okay, week 1 Monday Night Football last year, obviously gutted. 4 plays in, all the hoopla, everything around Rodgers was all right, we're gonna go, all systems go, Super Bowl favorites. He goes down. We same old Jets, right?
Yeah.
This year, the hype train was there, but it wasn't there. It wasn't last year there. It was there, but it was more like, okay, can he come back from this at 40 years old? Can Rodgers be the Rodgers of old? Or
I thought his arm looked fresh.
What is 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers in the closing scenes of his Hall of Fame illustrious career going to look like? And to me, my takeaways were that offensive line that the Jets bolstered did their job. Rodgers was sacked once, pressured I think twice. Last year, Zach Wilson was running for his life.
Front that is really strong. So to get that kind of protection, that's a positive going forward in the season, because that's one of the best pass rushers you're going to face all year.
Right. Now,
so that's a good thought.
That said, the one thing that I took away from that was, the run game was really non-existent. San Francisco had a very good defense against the run. But I think with Aaron Rodgers, his arm looked great. Like his
Yeah.
arm looked like he didn't lose a beat
Well,
there.
he had a whole season of rest of not throwing a football.
Right. So,
Like he's recharged.
he had his zip there. That was good. He obviously still is able to look and read defenses like that part hasn't picked up speed for him. He still is operating pretty slow there. And I think, don't let the 13 of 21, 167 yards, one touchdown, one interception stat line fool you. That interception was a tip ball as well into the air, could have gone
Yeah.
either way. Don't let that fool you. I think that was Rodgers more and the team more feeling it out. You got to remember, for all you anti Aaron Rodgers people, that was his first full game in 1 year and 6 months.
Yeah.
Like it was his first full game. So you could tell he was starting to get a little more comfortable as the game was going on, despite the score being what it was. He seemed like, okay, he's got his fluid motion. And then he said in the post game that, okay, now it may be time to start testing out some other things. Can I extend the play, move out of the pocket a little bit like I used to? It's, he didn't do a whole lot of that this game, but once he got that first hit out of the way, once he got that first sack and he popped back up and was like, okay, there we go. I'm not worried. I'm not mailing in the season at the end of week 1 like I did last year.
Yeah.
And I think that's the big thing there. So, but your take on Rodgers, the Jets, you watched it along with America.
Yeah.
What did you see from Rodgers that, either that you're good with, like you're confident that he's going to kind of be the Aaron Rodgers of old, or what do you see that maybe he may need to adjust?
I think that some of the receivers are going to have to step it up. It can't be just the Garrett Wilson show. He did look a little, second to last season Rodgers in Green Bay, where he had Devontae Adams and he just pretty much spent his whole time getting the ball to Adams.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like he did that a lot with Wilson. And, Alan Lazard dropping a first down, on I think it was the second or the first drive.
It was first drive.
Yeah, dropping that ball, like Rodgers has this thing where if he doesn't trust you, he doesn't go to you anymore.
Right.
And he did that for a while and then realized, okay, they're doubling Wilson. I've got to go to somebody else. And then he went to Lazard because he has the most trust in him because he has played with him, even though his trust is not 100% there because, listen, the guy drops a lot of balls, and that's why Green Bay was like not interested in paying him. He wanted to get paid, and Green Bay was like, "We're not going to pay you. Like we just drafted all these receivers. We're going to go with what we got." And so, the Jets picked him up. They paid him probably way more than he needed to be paid. I don't think other teams were like lining up to try to like throw cash at him.
Oh no, definitely not.
So, it's it's very interesting. Just seeing what he has on this team, like I think that he has enough to get it done. Somebody is going to have to step up though when it comes to this team. Like in order to get this done, they're going to have to like really, really, really like they're going to have to like play well on that side of the ball. Because if Breece Hall's not getting a lot of yards running, then it's going to go down to the pass game again. And Nathaniel Hackett's system is very like read and react. And Rodgers kind of, scans the field. He has a play and then he makes adjustments to the play based on what he sees from the coverage. And so if guys are not doing what they're supposed to, and then it looks really horrible because he makes those adjustments. And if you don't make that right adjustment, that's when he gets that look on his face like he's, in the office where you catch him on camera and he's just staring into the camera. Like
right, yeah.
He has that, and it, that was something that was frustrating in Green Bay is like I think that if Peyton Manning was great at the whole audible at the line and changing the play and everything like that, but I think that Peyton, like, I don't know if he commanded a better, more stringent effort from his receivers and to be on the same page and to understand. Rodgers has that, but it was with the guys that he built
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Long term.
like rapport. Like with Randall Cobb, he can just look at and make a head signal or a hand signal, and Randall Cobb knows exactly what he's seeing. He knows that this is what I've got to run because
Yeah.
this is what Aaron is seeing, and then he's there. It's the same thing with Adams. So when Rodgers played his final season in Green Bay, he had all these kids
Yeah.
who never played with him before,
And I
so
think
his numbers are down, and
he's
he's
kinda
just
got
kind of
that.
like, yeah. So
I think
if you're not on
he's got that
board,
here too in New York
right?
as well.
You
But
got, I mean, he hasn't built that rapport with Wilson because it's really his first season playing with him. You could practice and do that crap, but
sure,
it's
yeah,
not,
100%.
it's not ready.
All right.
Give it
Let's-
4 weeks.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I will. But I think what we need to do right now is mind the pun. Got to call a timeout and pay some bills. So Brandon and I will resume this conversation on the other side here on the Listen In podcast, the Gear Radio Network. Stick around. We'll be right back. We are back. All right. John Smino here. Brandon Garrell over there. All right.
I hardly left.
It's like we hardly left. The wonderful world of podcasts. You know, if we were on terrestrial radio live, we'd have to sit there and be like,
yeah, you'd have the off-air button.
the off-air button to,
somebody goes in.
Bob Johnson
rubs one
Chevrolet
out.
commercials and all these local, hey, I buy 585.com, I buy your house. Hey,
Yeah.
did I tell you that dingbat, whoever runs that,
did.
called me?
You did.
Called me, hey, is this John Smino? I was like, who is this? I thought it was the freaking My Pillow guy. And it was like, oh, this is so-and-so from 585, I buy 585.com. Are you looking to sell your house? No. Oh, okay.
I'll give a great deal.
We give cash for houses. I said, good. Find the house that's up for sale and give them cash. Goodbye.
You could just give me cash if you want. I'm not going to give you my house.
Right. Unbelievable. Real quick, before we start going into next week,
Yeah.
I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about last night's game, the Bills and the Dolphins. Good for Buffalo. Good showing for them. I think the list from 103 players or whomever about Josh Allen being overrated was one of the dumbest things.
Yeah.
Anybody has produced. It was clearly a very slow news day for ESPN that
Right.
day, which was why I think that thing came to light. I don't
Yeah.
know anybody in their right frame of mind that thought
Yeah.
that list had any validity to it, except for maybe possibly Dolphins fans.
I don't know how you could be a Dolphins fan and think that Josh Allen's overrated though, because he's 11-1 against them.
The dude's it's like I
And
told
it's not
you in
like
text
he
message.
just squeaks them out. Like he beats the shit out of them.
Right,
Like,
right. Well, yesterday James Cook was the one that beat the shit, and that's great.
And that's the thing, because
I've highlighted
Allen
this.
couldn't be Allen yesterday. He was nursing
Right.
that hand injury. He had that big ass glove on with the 2 middle fingers taped. So
Ever since
he
Joe
didn't have
Brady
to
was
run
named,
yesterday.
man. Ever since Joe
He didn't
Brady
have
was
to
named
run.
the OC, and they incorporated the run and started letting James Cook a little bit more, the dynamic of that Bills offense looks a lot different now. Josh Allen is not up to him and his legs. He doesn't have a Devin Singletary anymore that he can't rely on.
Well, I mean,
what?
Week 1, it was definitely up to his legs.
Well,
Like he ran for 2 touchdowns and 2 of them were insane runs.
Sure, but they don't need to have
he
as
didn't have
many
to run this
designed
week
QB
because
plays.
he was
I think.
injured.
Right. But he has somebody that he could fall back on now. I think there were more designed runs specifically for Josh Allen because I don't think they were able to trust Devin Singletary and whomever else was in the backfield during those first 4 or 5 seasons of the process. And then once they got James
I don't
Cook
think they had
in,
the line for it either, though. The
that's
line
very
that
fair.
they had was very strong in pass protection. That was like their specialty. They didn't have a lot of run blocking guys, playing up front for the Bills.
Mhm.
So I think that they've evolved in that area. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes, because the defense yesterday looked better than it did in week 1. And I'm trying to figure out is if the Dolphins are that bad
Mhm.
and that easy to scheme for, or the Cardinals are actually better than last year obviously indicates like Murray didn't play much of last season, coming back from the injury.
Mhm.
He's a threat to run. I mean, he ran for 57 yards last week against the Bills. Like, he had some
I
key
don't
first
think the
round.
Yeah, I don't think the Cardinals are a bad team. I don't think they are.
They've got pieces.
I don't think they know how to finish the execution of the plan, but they know how to at least get it started.
Yeah.
Where Miami, I think, is, not to quote a Robert Saleh phrase, but all gas, no brake. Like, I think they
Yeah.
just kind of go and do. And then
Well, the Bills
when
played
they
it
break,
perfectly.
it's hard. And the Bills drew up a brilliant scheme for them. Got 3 interceptions out of Tua, but let's not,
Yeah.
that aside, the seriousness of Tua Tagovailoa's concussion injury has everybody saying, dude, I think it's time. Like,
Yeah, I mean, how many times are we going to see that guy go down and have his hands like
yeah,
involuntarily stuck in the air again? Like,
his
it
hands
just
and his
needs to
fingers
stop.
should not be involuntarily moving like that.
No.
I don't care if he wears one of those guardian caps and tries to come back. It's the whiplash alone is
Yeah.
unavoidable, and that can trigger
And he was
post-traumatic.
100% at fault for it too.
Yes.
Like,
He instead of
this wasn't
sliding, he
one
dove
where
head
like
first.
this isn't one where like, okay, he got, sacked and spun around and, it was just something that was, it's a freak play. Like he lowered his head and like, that's just not smart. Like if
Sure.
you have, like if you have a history of like hand injuries, and you've had your hand broken a number of times, you're not going to go in and start swinging that hand and like punch somebody with it, because
Mhm.
like you got to protect it because it's going to break easier. Like each time you recover from an injury,
Mhm.
you're more susceptible to that injury again in the future because you like, especially with a brain injury, like you're more susceptible to it.
Right. Right.
And the fact that he put his head down after he already had the first down, there was nothing more that he needed to gain. All he
Mhm.
needed to do was go down.
Mhm.
And it's not like the dude was lighting the world on fire before that.
Sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
he'd thrown 3 interceptions already, including that weird ass pick six
Yeah.
where he was trying to chuck it out of bounds and just didn't have enough arm for it for some reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it just got picked off easily and, run up the sideline for an easy touchdown. But like, yeah, when does it get to a point where it's just like, man, you've got guaranteed money in your contract.
Right.
Just
Mike McDaniel
walk
was
away.
heard saying to Tua as he was walking off the field, "You're the quarterback for your family. Go, get better and be there with them. Don't worry about the team," kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which, you know what? I like Mike McDaniel. I think he's a good coach.
I do too.
I like his
Kissed
personality.
dude on the head on his way over. Like he clearly cares about his team. He cares about his players. Like,
yes.
and
For all the ragging I do on the Dolphins and
Yeah.
Dolphins fans in particular.
Oh, their fans hate him now.
Oh,
Like they're
yeah.
so angry. Like I
Yeah.
saw all the like Twitter guys
I
like
can't-
reacting last night.
I can't
So
even.
damn funny.
I can't even. They're the one that, what do they call him? Hawaiian Daniel Jones was what
Oh, yeah.
someone on Twitter called him.
He's Hawaiian Daniel Jones.
Yeah,
That big
it's like-
fat motherfucker.
Yeah. And I don't know, man. I remember getting that. They don't want it.
Yeah.
My famous phrase, coined amongst the friend group here. But I used to let it impact me that bad. But then I grew up.
Yeah.
And got
Yeah,
laid.
and that dude's way older than us.
Right.
So like there's
So
no
it's-
chance he's growing up anytime soon.
It's crazy, but the human side of me really hopes that, and has someone that has had, because of my long professional wrestling journey, and has had concussions, and knows what it's like to go through, the moment that you've had it, the moment you've had your bell rung, and then what follows from there. I think while there's more awareness around it, I don't think there's enough awareness around. I don't think people truly understand, like the fans that yelled Hawaiian Daniel Jones. I don't think they truly understand what people go through when that happens. And speaking for me, the most recent one that I encountered was this past March. Usually very careful when I'm in the ring and, taking my falls and making sure I'm appropriately stretched. I'm not, I don't drink beer or anything or smoke anything before matches. I don't even really do it after matches until I'm home, kind of thing, right? But like, you go into the game day, so to speak, which mine is a wrestling ring. You go there, you make sure you're focused, you make sure you're stretched nice and loose, you make sure you're hydrated, you're good to go. You can do everything you possibly can to protect yourself. For me in wrestling, it's maybe not taking as many falls, not doing so many stunts that could go wrong, but it's unavoidable sometimes. And sometimes just the timing is off, and I smacked the back of my head on the canvas of the ring, and I could feel that,
Yeah.
and you hear it's a sound. You hear the sound, and your lights go out, and as you start coming back, it's like, when you see like the stars, you look too fast or sudden or whatever, and you see the stars, you see like a bunch of that, and then it starts kind of like fading back, and then the lights are really bright. You're super photosensitive. You don't know, you're kind of like not with it, right?
Mhm.
Somehow I managed to get myself to the back, convince everybody I was okay, and get home. And but then it was shower and right to bed. And then the next day I went to the 9 to 5. Fortunately for Tua, his 9 to 5 is football, but for me it's not.
Yeah.
I have no memory of that workday, like at all. Nothing. Don't remember anything about it. The Tuesday after, super sluggish, super slow, really photosensitive. Getting, I'm on WebEx meetings, listening to people bitch about the dumbest of things, and I'm trying not to throw up, not because of the grotesque, not because it's grotesque or what they're saying is grotesque. It's just the light and all of that, and the draining, and the short-term memory loss, the coming back from that,
sensory overload.
Right, exactly. Like it's a struggle to come back from it, and oftentimes, you've heard it with the Junior Seaus of the world and things like that. When you have those types of head injuries consistently, sometimes you get to a very dark place in recovery. And Tua has had this happen a number of times in just the past 3 years.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
He was clean last year. Like he went through the whole season, played the entire year last year. And then the year before is when he had those, three in one season. The one went undiagnosed, but he clearly was concussed. Then he had the second one against the Bengals, only a couple of weeks later, and that one was really bad. And then he had the one against Green Bay on Christmas Day, in Miami. So like 3 in one season is a lot. Like 3 in a career is a lot.
Right.
But to have 3 in one season,
yes,
and that's not counting. We don't know what his concussion history was in college. Like we don't know what that was like. So there's the college aspect of it. There's now there's currently like the shit he's going through now. Like he's going through another one. Like, and this one, like he put his head down and went right into the guy, and he. It's just not good for him, man. Like
good.
he needs to seriously reconsider this
absolutely
this lifestyle for him. Like
I agree.
I get the competitive experience.
Give him an office job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or be an ambassador or something at this point. And it's at this point it's not about, he's our franchise quarterback, whatever. Like the human element supersedes all of that. So I hope that Miami can,
it's also on the player too. Like,
right.
He doesn't seem like the kind of person that is willing to concede that.
Sure.
And that's, evident by, the way he played yesterday. Like,
well, Miami
to put his head down and try to get that first down, knowing that you have had a history of head injuries. Like that is instinctive.
Mm-hmm.
And he has that instinct and he has that competitive drive, which means he's going to try to get healed up. And once he's cleared by doctors, he's going to run right back out there. And
Yeah.
there has to
It
be
would
a
have to
point
be,
where like somebody
yeah,
has to stop up and say, hey,
Mike
like,
McDaniel or the
this needs to be
GM
done.
or even the owner is going to have to step up and say, I don't think I see the owner saying that because he's the one that's
No.
paying the guguaranteed money. But in
Right.
the same, like, I think
Well,
there
I
needs
mean,
to be
with something like that, though, I think that, you know, the NFL, like with an injury like that, if it's in like a career-ending one, like there'll be some insurance that the team can collect,
Mhm.
disability insurance on it. Like they'll get some money back from,
Lords of
having to
London
lose
or
them.
something like that does that type of
Yeah.
insurance or something
So
like that.
he'll, the ownership aspect of it, it's like, yeah, it sucks, but like at the same time, like, what are you gonna do?
Absolutely.
Like they'll get the money back in
All
some way or fashion.
All right, my friend, we're getting ready to close this out, but really quickly, week 2, the New York Jets play the Tennessee Titans. Both teams 0-1. ESPN says that 57% of America believes the New York Jets will be over the Tennessee Titans. I am amongst that 57. What say you?
Yeah, I agree. I think they're gonna win.
Perfect. All right. And then Colts Packers, 1:00 on Fox. Hopefully, maybe it's a dual screen action for the YouTube TV there. Colts,
Oh,
Packers.
you can change it. You know that, right? They fixed it this year.
They did?
Yeah, you can select your multi-view.
I did not know that.
Yeah, there's a menu in there that you can click on, and they give you like a whole bunch of options.
Really?
You can do a
Okay.
2x2, you can do a 3 screen, you can do the full 4. They've got different mixes of the 4.
Just during sports or in general, like for everything?
The NFL. It's the
Okay.
NFL one.
Got you. Okay.
Yeah, it's a menu. Like I was dicking around with it last week, on Sunday because it was like, my
But if
team
you don't
already
have the
played.
Sunday ticket, could you do 3 screens anyways and just have 1/3 screen be
No,
tennis on ESPN or whatever?
no.
No. Okay. So, all
Nope.
right. So for me, it'll be a dual screen either way. But
Yeah.
Indianapolis visiting Green Bay. They are the favorites by not a whole lot. ESPN says 55% of America believe Indianapolis is going to win, to 44.7% that believe Green Bay is
Yeah.
going to win. I don't know enough about Indianapolis to be a part of that 55, so I'm going to be one of them undecided voters there. But you being the Packer fan here, what side of the fence?
I mean, I'm not going to
here?
pick against my team. But
Okay.
I am going to say that I wouldn't be surprised if we do lose because I don't know what Malik Willis has to offer.
Right.
Obviously, Green Bay saw something in him because they went and grabbed him
Mhm.
and traded for him. They already had, Sean Clifford, who spent a whole season as the backup for Love last year.
Sure.
They had another quarterback in there too, and neither of them did enough to move the needle. And clearly, Gutekunst saw something with, Malik Willis that he liked enough to trade a 6th-round pick for him.
Mhm.
When all intents and purposes, there's a chance that the Titans don't even carry him this year.
Right.
As his backup quarterback, So, they obviously saw something. So, the teams speak, the coach speak, and everyone's, saying that, these different things about how he's doing and whatnot, and, trying to promote the optimism. So we'll see. But
I
Indy's a
think
tough team.
for you, I will go ahead and pick the Packers as well. Just because I know more about them than Indianapolis, although I'm not very confident on Malik Willis at all. But yeah, anywho, that is going to do it for us here on Listen In. There's the music. Very good. Wow. We're back, and we'll be back again very, very soon. Hey, in case you didn't know by now, Listen In has been consolidated to the same feed that the JC Money Show is on. So if you already subscribe to the JC Money Show, you get this. If you have not subscribed to the JC Money Show feed, do that. This is going here. I stole that concept from Shannon Sharp, and it's just way easier. But we'll be back sooner than you think. Brandon, good day to you, sir. So long, everybody. Good night now. Flava Flav, a yeah boy for Listen In's return. Yeah, boy.
Greatest thing going in the world right now.
The preceding presentation has been brought to you by the Gear Network.